Welcome to the Realizations Podcast. I'm Andrea Gordon, your host, and I'm excited to explore the world of real estate with you. In a world where perceptions often overshadow reality, Realizations seeks to redefine what it means to be a realtor. Join me as we peel back the layers of the industry, uncovering inspiring stories and celebrating the good in real estate. Whether you're a homeowner, a fellow realtor, or simply curious, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Realizations, where perceptions meet reality. Let's dive right in. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Realizations, the podcast where we talk about literally everything real estate. I'm really excited today to have Karen Briscoe on. Karen is an agent, mega agent out of McLean, Virginia, and she has a beautiful team. She's been in business for 23 years. She has her own podcast. She's written book after book. Her most famous book is Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day, and that intrigued me so much that I wanted to make sure we all talked about how you could be real estate successful in 5 minutes a day. So welcome to the show, Karen. I really appreciate having you here.
I'm thrilled to be here and to visit with you and add some value to your community.
Thank you. Thank you. I am always excited when I meet other top producers. You guys routinely produce at a level of 100 million annually. So I think that all my listeners would be advised to consider the advice that you have here. You have a team, and who are the people that are on your team?
So my business partner, Lizzie Conroy, and I have been together since 2009, and she and I each have a showing partner, and we're the top agents on the team. And then we have one other agent that produces at a high level, and she is also got a showing partner. And then we have like 3 junior agents, and we have a director of operations and listing coordinator, and she does listings and marketing. We hire out a virtual assistant and a transaction coordinator, and the social media team is separate as well, although they do a lot of work with us. We used to do it in-house, social media, and we found that we needed a up level, and so we now work with a media company for that.
I work with a company called Agent Upgrade for my social media, and I found that just took a lot of pressure off of me, because when social media, you have to be on it all the time, and if you're not, it's worse than not doing it at all. So making sure that you have a company that just can make sure that you're posting often enough, but not too often, material that enhances your business rather than in any way detracts from it. These are good things. On my personal stuff, I cite things politically, what have you, but on my business stuff, I stay way the hell away from that. Question I have for you: how did you come to the idea that you could have real estate success in 5 minutes a day? That seems a little bit, given my own proclivity for being a workaholic maniac, I'm interested.
The way the idea came about was that I had achieved a high level of success, as many agents, have. What was unique to me is that I had purchased and become partners with a top agent in the early 2000s, and she was number 10 in the nation at the time. And she and I became partners in 2006. And then sadly, she passed away in September of 2008, which was the same month the financial markets crashed.
Right.
And so I, from 2008 to on, rebuilt the business and brought on my current business partner with me, Lizzie Conroy, in 2009. And people would ask me in my coaching with them and training, how did you do it? Because there's a lot of people who survived the market crash, but not everybody had also been through such significant business impact as having a business partner pass away. And so I tell stories, and the stories became very sticky and memorable. I've been writing a blog back when people read blogs. And what I found was many people in this industry and other industries that are similar in sales, they want to do training, they want to do coaching, they want to improve their business and life. They just don't have enough time. They heard over and over again, oh yeah, I want to read that book, I just don't have time. Or they'll read the first page or two and then they go off on something else. This whole squirrel shiny object syndrome phenomenon. So My idea, my book was to be like a daily reader format where you would read one concept a day and there would be a takeaway. And this idea that you would build a repertoire of knowledge about real estate business and sales, and these have core concepts, because my publisher said to me, that's great, every day is a great idea to be different, but there should be some overarching core concepts to this. So the idea is that by investing 5 minutes a day into your personal and business development, then over a year, over time, you will have built up this repertoire of knowledge, and found that it really is the case that for many people, the small chunks of knowledge has more impact and more opportunity to actually be implemented, because education and training without implementation is just entertainment. So
Right.
it really did.
I love that. I
It
love that. I'm
really,
going to use that.
yes, education and training without implementation is entertainment. And so this really became very profound, because it can have multiple possible. Some people, it's like a domino, like they just start knocking over these concepts. Some of them, it's more like a snowball, it builds up. Some people, it's a little more like the throwing a pebble in a pond and the ripple effect. Some people is exponential, like they really grow exponentially, but the investment of the time is about 5 minutes a day. And so these bite-sized stories, really action items, really is the how you achieve a higher level of success. And many people, because it is only 5 minutes, they are capable of committing to that and implementing it and continuing with it.
Okay, good. Now I'm disabused of my worry that you thought people could do real estate in 5 minutes a day and become wealthy. So I get that. Yeah. Now, do you bring this world into coaching other people, or do you just throw your books out there? I know you have a podcast and we'll talk about that in a minute, but are you actually taking on coaching clients while you're doing all of this?
I am. I do have a few slots for people that perhaps, if they want to reach out and to me and see if it's a good fit, we can have a consult call. So there are core principles, as I said, in the 5 minute success, and they are really, now that I've done over 400 episodes on the podcast and we follow these core principles, they really are very universal for business and other arenas too. I've even had
Right.
nonprofits find that it is valuable. So the core concepts are: commit to get leads. So that's business development, prospecting, lead generation. So everybody does business development, prospecting, lead generation.
Just not
And
necessarily call it that.
right, because if you think about it, your dentist has to have patients. Churches,
Right.
they call it evangelism. They actually have to
Sure.
have people. So everybody does some form of that, but it's a commitment because
Yeah.
I find many people want to do it when they feel like it. And what I found is people that are successful, they have a commitment to it, but they also have systems. They have ways of implementing their business development, prospecting, lead generation. And then the next component is consult to sell. So some people call that conversion. I call it consulting, but it's taking a buyer, a customer, a patient through a process so that there's actually business/service along the other end, right? There's even nonprofits, they have to have money, like they
Oh, sure.
work for free. So the idea is everybody has some sort of process. And so this quote unquote transactional aspect of is what I call consult to sell. And then the connect to build and grow is the scale leverage systems, because any operation has to have something that is repeatable, scalable, because
Yeah.
it's not going to survive. Otherwise, you're only as good as your next deal. You're only as good as,
I call that bumper car when
I love that.
agents are not actually actively seeking business and creating systems for themselves so that they can replicate things and have a consistency of income. I call that being a bumper car agent.
That's brilliant. I love that. So that is how to go to the next level. And then success thinking, activities, and visions. So that's the mindset motivation piece of 5 minute success. So the idea is you have a vision for what you want in your life and your business. You think about how to do it, but then you take the actions, you actually implement it. Back to, if you just think about it, the affirmations, which many people in success genres talk about. And then you have a vision, you think about it, but you really have to take action to make something happen. And then all of those together combined create the sweet spot of success. So what I work with people in my coaching practice is that how those core principles, those core concepts.
Yeah, no, they're good. They're beautiful ones. I love that. And when you're working on your podcast, of which you've had, you say 435 episodes or 436 episodes, that's a lot. And you started your podcast in 2017. So tell me a little bit about what motivated you to create a podcast, because it takes a lot to put it together. It's something you have to think about. I'll tell you a little bit about mine. I got super pissed off about the NAR DOJ lawsuits and the commission lawsuits and the disrespect that our industry has out in the world. And so I created this podcast literally because I thought, okay, being upset and angry is not a useful thing. It doesn't help anybody. All it does is hurt you. So what could you do that in your own small way could make a difference? And the difference that I thought was educating people about the complexity that's involved in being a real estate agent, what we do, because I think people don't know what we do. They think these reality TV shows are what
So true.
Yeah, and it's a very complicated, very all-consuming job. Anybody who gets into it thinking that they're going to be able to do it in 5 minutes a day is out of their mind. That does not work. Basically, realtors live life around the edges because they're working within the framework of other people's schedules. I might find myself opening up a house at 7:30 in the morning before somebody has to go to work. Or I'm at an inspection at 12 noon while somebody else is off of work for a lunch hour. Or I'm showing property, writing contracts, or whatever at 7:30 at night because that's the time that they have to do things. So it's not as if you can quote unquote make your own hours. What you're doing is you are working within the framework that works for the people that are your clients. So I wanted to express all of this stuff because at least if people start listening to what I'm saying on the podcast, maybe they'll get a clearer idea of what all is involved, all the vendors we deal with, all the negotiation that we do, what's involved in marketing a property, what's involved in staging a property, what's involved in working with vendors to get places ready for the market, what's involved in the psychology of working with buyers, what's involved with how you avoid legal action, all kinds of things. So I've had lawyers, I've had the heads of different real estate companies, and I've had vendors of all kinds of businesses on my show because I want people to get that. Karen, tell me why you did your podcast.
So when I finished my book, it took 9 months, which is some people use the analogy of birthing a child.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, I'm going to put it on Amazon and it's going to sell. And my son goes, what are you going to do now? And I'm like, he goes, you got to promote it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that. Okay, you birth the child, but then you have to raise it.
Yeah.
I had met other authors and talked to them about what they did. And many of them go on the speaking circuit. And I do love to travel. I like to travel where I want to go, though. And so when I saw what the speaking circuit looked like, I was like, yeah, I don't really want to travel like that. Although I have done some, I'm not saying I didn't do it at all. But what I found with podcasting, and in 2016, podcasting was still not,
In its
you know,
infancy.
not in infancy, but it was not what it is today. And I found pretty quickly being a woman mega agent author was somewhat unusual. And I had an opportunity. I've been on hundreds of podcasts, and I found that it was an opportunity to have a conversation, share about my book and about my business, and it's had an opportunity to have amazing conversations with people. What I found was, and I like to say on my book's first birthday, it asked for a podcast because I was like, I could do the other side of the microphone. We call it pod swap. But the other side of the microphone is interviewing someone else. So when I was on other people's podcasts, like on this, I'm being interviewed by you. When I have my people on my podcast, I'm interviewing them. And because of the core principles of the 5-minute success, I was like, I already have a format. 5-minute introduction, get to know you and your success journey. 5 minutes of commit to get lead, 5 minutes of consult to sell, 5 minutes on connect to build and grow, 5 minutes on success principles, and then we wrap up our conversation. And so I was like, that's a perfect 30-minute podcast. And so
Yeah.
it's just this aha moment. And then what I found was, it was even better. I found it was amazing, some of the conversations with people I had. I've had James Clear of Atomic Habits. I've had Gretchen Rubin with the Happiness Project. I've had life coaches. I've had authors. I've had mega real estate agents. I've had new real estate agents. I've had people in every arena, as you said, of the real estate industry. Jay Papasan of The One Thing, and his wife, Wendy Papasan. I've had stagers, and so it has been a fantastic way to hear people's stories inside the format of the 5-minute success. And so it's been an amazing journey over the last, what's coming up. So I launched it in 2017, so it's coming up on its 8th birthday. And oh, the places my podcast has taken me, and my book. And that's been fantastic. People refer me business because they hear me on a podcast. It's just really a wonderful media, really, I think, for so many reasons.
Yeah, it's a wonderful tool. And obviously, you're being very modest here. You wouldn't be successful at it if you weren't good at it and you didn't have something relevant and meaningful to say. So that's an obvious thing. And all this stuff is super interesting. I am a hyper person in many ways, and I actually just went back to get my PhD. So I'm actually in school right now getting my PhD. Before I became a realtor, I ran theater companies and nonprofits. And so my subject matter is women, ageism, and theater. And so I've been interviewing people for my dissertation. And it's an interesting thing because one of the things I've been learning is knowing how to ask questions. And there's an analogous skill set in real estate where understanding the questions to ask of people is going to really help you along the way in figuring out what they really want, what they really need, how you're going to go about getting it without in any way alienating them, making them uncomfortable, figuring out how to work through their issues to get them to the place where they can buy or sell a house. This learning how to question that you learn through doing podcast interviews is actually a really helpful skill set, I think, for anybody in business, honestly. So you've obviously came to it naturally because you had this impetus to do all of this.
I would say I have so many things you shared. Phil M. Jones, exactly what to say. I've actually had him as a guest on the podcast when you talk about what to say. I had a speech impediment as a child. Okay. And I went into speech therapy. And so I would say to people, like, here I am, I have a podcast. I do improv. I find that improv for me has been the most helpful. Yeah, very helpful, because the premise of improv is you take what is given you in the scene and then you go from there. And that's what I feel like interviewing is, when somebody asks a question or in communication. And I find it to be also very helpful in working with customers and clients as well, because it's in response to what you're given that you're best able to help people, I find, and be of service to them, but also in communication. So and when you talk about ageism, I began working full time when I was 50 years old. Wow. When my son left for college. And so I share with people, particularly women, you can start at any time. Now you have to work really hard. I did, because technology had changed and there was so much to learn. And yet I find it to be very exciting and energizing, and I love it. So I'm thrilled to know that you're also championing the fact that there is no age limit to success.
There truly isn't. I'm 68, and I thought I was going to be the oldest person in my program, and there are like 3 people that are older than me, which I love. And I'll have the way I'm doing it, I'll have my PhD by the time I'm 80.
You're going to be 80 anyhow, so there you go.
And it's an interesting thing for me, because I do think that as we age, we do actually get wiser. And I think that a lot of our culture does not appreciate that. But the truth is, you do get wiser. You do stop caring about what's not important, because you've really figured out what's important and what isn't. And I love that you do improv, by the way. Improv, to me, whenever a young agent comes up to me asking me for advice around how do you become as successful as you are, what have you, and they seem like they're shy or introverted. Real estate is for everyone. If you're introverted, there's an introvert out there that you can work with. If you're extroverted like I am, there's an extrovert out there that you can work with. But improv helps you think on your feet. It helps you to use your imagination. It helps you to think outside the box. There's a phrase in improv, yes, and, which is a very important phrase because it's not something that cuts anything off. And I think that's an issue in real estate. If somebody is not thinking a little bit outside of the box in certain situations, I'm obviously not advocating anything illegal or anything like that, but if somebody is not able to see a broader perspective on what's going on, it will basically stop them in their business. So learning how to be outside the box a little bit helps everyone. So I love that you did that. I think that is super cool.
Oh, I still do improv. I love it. It's one of my favorite things because several other concepts of improv is got your back. And I love that concept that we're all in the scene together. We're all want to provide the best for the audience, but in this situation for customers, clients, people you work with. And the other thing about it is that people in improv, you have to be so present.
Yes.
Because to really participate, you have to listen to what is you're being given because that's what you're working with. And so it's really, other than church, I find it to be where people are not looking at their phones, they're actually focused on what's going on and what people are sharing. And I just find that level of energy and connectedness to be really very energizing and inspiring.
That's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. Yeah. What is life for but to explore everything you possibly can, to use your imagination, which is God-given, to be inspired by those around you, and to really listen to other people and communicate. I think that real estate forces you into all of those places on a regular basis. And if it doesn't, then you're in the wrong business as far as I can tell. Okay, we are at over a half an hour here, but we started a little bit late. Do you still have a little bit more time?
I have a couple more minutes. Yes, I would love to.
Great. Great. You are a delight, an absolute delight. I've really enjoyed the conversation that we've had thus far. And where can people find you if they want to find you?
So on the real estate side, I am with HBC Group at Keller Williams, and that is in McLean, Virginia, which is where the CIA is, in case you need the geography lesson. Northern Virginia, it's part of the DMV. They call us the DMV now, DC, suburban Maryland, Northern Virginia. And so you can reach me if you have any real estate needs in that area. And then for the podcast and the books, it's the number 5, 5 Minute Success. And that is the website, 5 Minute Success. And you can look me up on Amazon for all the books and Audible. There's Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day, Commit to Get Leads, 66-Day Challenge, Consult to Sell, 60-Day Challenge. And then Flip Time Love Life, which is a story about a successful, actually mortgage person, because I wanted to have it be a different field so that people could see themselves through this story. And so if you're, like I mentioned earlier, if you are interested in exploring life coaching for mega agents and those who want to be, I would be happy to have a conversation about that. Just reach out on the website, and pretty much you can Google Karen Briscoe, and I think I take the whole first page on Google.
That is super awesome. And one of the things that you emphasized in our initial conversation before we started this podcast was how these lessons are applicable to anyone. So those of you in my audience who are listening, who are not realtors, everything she's talking about, you can actually apply to what it is that you are doing. And I think it could be really helpful and useful. You're a way doll. I really am excited to have talked to you. And I have family in your area. My brother-in-law lives in Virginia. We are out there all the time. So I'm going to look you up.
Please do. Please do. Yes. And one of my coaching clients right now, she's actually in nonprofits in production of documentaries. And so you are right. There are other folks that certainly, if this is of interest to you, please reach out.
Awesome. Take good care. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Realizations Podcast. I hope our conversation has shed light on the true essence of real estate and the people behind it. As we wrap up, I want to extend my gratitude to our listeners for their support and engagement. Your feedback drives the heart of this podcast, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing to the Realizations podcast and leaving a review. Your support helps us reach more listeners and spread our message of positivity in the real estate industry. Until next time, remember to keep an open mind, embrace empathy, and always seek the good in every situation. I'm Andrea Gordon, signing off from Realizations. See you next time.